There is a supernatural world, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You'll hear stories about this and so much more right here on Supernatural Confrontations. It's another Monday, Supernatural Confrontations. Thanks so much for subscribing. If you have not yet subscribed, hit that little red button. We certainly appreciate it. And we'll get into this and so much more. But first, a word from our sponsor. History is being made thanks to a new study. There is strong evidence to suggest collagen is one of the best supplements in the world to help reduce the appearance of skin aging. Researchers found the supplement helped improve the skin elasticity and hydration of over 1,000 people. That's why I've been using it. Folks, I take it every day. Other products do not contain the same level of the 5 critically important types of collagen for bright, even, and younger looking skin, like my favorite collagen does. It combines the right types and the right amount of collagen your skin needs to help rejuvenate its elasticity. Unlock your secret to healthy aging with this amazing powder. Health with LA is notorious for selling out due to their high demand. If you order now, you'll get 51% off, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Get yours while you still can by going to that's www.healthwithla or visiting the link below. What I love about Sandra's testimony is she recalls being abducted. She knows that something happened to her when she was very young. And she also talks about in the interview how the buzzing noise and how she could tell when it was about to be abducted, about to happen. It's a remarkable testimony, and bully for her for having the courage and boldness to come on the record. Folks, the supernatural world is real. Something is going on. People have encountered it, both the good and the demonic, both the angelic and the demonic. We see the hand of the Lord come in and save people. But we also know that people are terrified sometimes by the things that happen to them. And I think Sandra's testimony leans to that, but of course she gets the victory in Jesus. So here's her testimony. I'll weigh in on the other side. So I'm here with Sandra, and you had an experience. You've had a lot of experiences, actually, with the whole UFO phenomenon. And that's what we're going to actually drill into today and discuss this. And I thank you for coming on the record and being bold and daring enough to do that. A lot of people are still afraid to come forward. And it just shows you the stigma that goes along with talking about anything supernatural. But, you know, and you know where I'm at with this, Sandra, that I believe the supernatural world is more real than the natural world. And that's why I said, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. So thanks for coming on Supernatural Confrontations. Tell us your story, please.
So thank you, first of all, for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here. You know, I want to do this because when I, like you said, had a lifetime of these experiences, I had nowhere to go. I was one of the only people in my family that had this. People, like you said, there's a stigma. You just bury it. Yeah. And it's such, you almost carry a shame from it. And it's too bad. It should be so much more known and talked about. And our churches are lacking in the ability to help us spiritually with all of this, because it really is a spiritual thing ultimately. And so thank you for having me, first of all. Thanks for the opportunity to share, just to get right into it, because I've had a lifetime. So I know we need to condense this. But I want to kind of start out with talking about when I was born in 1961. Not a woman afraid to say my age, you know, but at that time, UFOs weren't known. Like the Benny and Barney Hill case was 61. That started being talked about in the 70s. Before that, nobody had a reference for this stuff. My first experience being taken was at the age of about 3 or 4. And I used to sleep with an older sister, and had a night that I woke up and there were four beings around the bed with these very long fingers, four fingers that I thought they were snakes because they were really long and they were jointed in a weird way that it almost looked like they were waving snakes. But they came and I remember they like took me out of my bed. I felt like I was walking. It wasn't a floating thing. But as they were making me come out, I'm going over top of my sister and I'm trying to wake her up. I was mad at her that she wouldn't wake up. And I remember they took me into like my closet and it seemed like we stepped through something. It was round. I think it was a portal. But then we were, in a room and I don't remember much else from that. Most of my abductions, I remember more of the coming and the coming back. I mean, the going and the coming back and snippets of what might have happened. I never have like a full memory.
Let me stop you right there because we've heard this before. Al Matthews has talked about this, as other people that I've spoken to. Some people remember, they call it being switched off when they're taken. So they're taken, then they just blank out.
Yeah.
Other people have like certain screen memories, but some people remember vividly details. And so it's kind of a mixed bag, and it makes us wonder, why do some people remember and some people don't remember? We also know that some people can be regressed hypnotically. And this is not stage hypnosis where, you're losing control, nothing like that. This is where you're really relaxed and slowly, if you're in a relaxed state and your person knows what they're doing, they can kind of coax those memories up to the surface. So it's not hypnosis in the way that, you're getting sleepy and boom, and you're completely, it's not like that at all. It's more like you're just relaxing enough and allowing things to perk up. Most people don't do that in that period of time in sleep. That's kind of where it happens. Okay, so you're being switched off. You have snippets. Tell us what happens then.
Okay, so like I said, that was the first memory of ever being taken. Came back. I just remember I kind of woke up and I started screaming for my mother that there were snakes in the bed. I was saying there's snake. What's a 3-4-year-old? No, these and when she came in, I said, "Tell those kids I don't want to go with them again." And nobody knew what I was talking about. So going forward, I made notes about the things that were, one of the things I'm at now that I didn't know then that I like to say for anybody who may be going through this is understand this isn't just UFO. We talk about these are extra dimensional entities. I call them like extra realmy. They're from a different realm. And sometimes you see that realm, sometimes you don't. And, part of my experience that I think were part of all of this is growing up, I was always having paranormal encounters. Used to see the shadow people in the room, a dark figure with the glowing red eyes, would see the gray thing standing there just watching me. It would make my bed shake. I mean, this was the kind of stuff that went on my entire childhood. The sleep paralysis. I mentioned, lightly having a being that would come on you and feel like it was going to break your neck. And you would just panic and you couldn't do anything. And finally, later on, I realized I beat that because it had happened enough times. And one night it came, I was so tired. I was exhausted my entire childhood. I never got to sleep. And I finally didn't care anymore. And when I didn't care, I was kind of like, oh, you again. Okay, kill me if you're going to, because I'm tired, And it completely dissipated. It was like I could feel it dissolve.
Wow.
And this was probably, part of when I started realizing you can't fear this also. The spiritual, there's 300, I looked it up, 365 times in the Bible, the Lord says, do not fear. And if that's not the exact answer for a lot of this, these entities will do things. They make when you come into this life, like I think you've mentioned before, you think they know who to pick on, I came into life with a lot of spiritual gifts. from God. I don't think they were evil, but I had a lot of gifts. I think they know how to target people that have this. And they want to end you. They want you to be so miserable. There were times in my teens I considered suicide because this was so awful. You know, my mother that died at 10 mysteriously, developed a cancer out of the blue.
Yeah.
You know, we had a lot of trauma in the household from that. Bullied at school. I mean, they do that. They come into your life and they want you to not use those gifts. So the stigma of all of this makes you bury your abilities, makes you not talk about it. Then you walk around with almost like a PTSD.
Well, it is, no, it's not almost, it is PTSD
I mean,
because you're traumatized and you've got nowhere to go with it. And
nowhere to
people won't
go.
even believe what you're saying. So let me
Right.
try to move the story ahead here. So you're being taken. How frequently were you taken?
I would say at least every couple of months.
Okay.
It was like and this is just a little bit more about that. You know, I would know they were coming. I felt terrified. I would get a feeling of
So
terror.
you would know.
Oh, I could feel like the room energy changed.
Right.
I'd hear buzzing.
Buzzing. Let me, I got to stop you right there because we've heard this before. The buzzing is so common among people who have been taken. People have close encounters of the first, second, third kind. The buzzing is always there. People know when they're about to be switched off. After a while, it's a feeling and you know that feeling. And then they show up and they do what they're going to do. So this is going on every couple of months.
Right.
And tell us what happens around puberty when you start to transition, you know, into womanhood, essentially.
You know, and so I can't say I have vivid memories of the sexual stuff, but yet I had times I woke up, I had a mark in my navel area. There were at least once a year in the summer times, I would get these horrible rashes all around my navel. And it would always start from this needle point.
Are you aware? Have you ever heard this? And I hope this doesn't upset you, but one of the common traits of female abductees, when they take the ovum, they go through the belly button. They go through.
I had heard, you know, I've seen that since, and I thought, well, I wonder if that had to be. I don't have the memories of the sexual stuff being done to me, but when you wake up with that, I mean, I've woken up, I have scoop marks. I'm sure I have implants. You know, it's lost hearing in my left ear at 6 years old out of the blue. Out of the blue, woke up one day deaf.
Wow.
No clue why.
So you're moving into puberty. You know, the rash around the navel, needle point there. I mean, this is classic abduction stuff because that's what they do. They go in allegedly through the navel. I mean, I've heard this before. You've heard it, so it's not the first time that you've heard it. And you know, being involved in what you were involved in, you know,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Answers. So you did get pregnant, and tell us about that, if you will.
So that's like way after. Do we want to go there already?
No, I mean,
this is the first marriage 20 years later.
Right. Okay.
Okay. I mean, when I was first married, there was a period where we were trying to get pregnant and I had missed a couple of periods, thought I was pregnant, went to go to the doctor. There was nothing there. I don't have memory of being taken. I was living in New York City at the time. I don't have a memory of being taken. I don't remember, you know, so weird that all of a sudden I started getting a period again and who knows? I wouldn't, I've never had a child. I have tried to get pregnant, was never able to, you know, maybe I don't even have any ovaries left. Maybe they took them all. I don't know. But back to when the puberty time, one of the things I do remember vividly when I was taken, and you see, whenever I would go there, I would see other people. I would see others like standing like a zombie, like they're waiting in line for something. And I would be going past, being taken somewhere. I remember looking in rooms and there were children in there. I've worked in hospitals, and I don't know if you ever went to a chemo ward where you have kids that are, some have hair, some don't have hair. They don't look healthy.
Oh, I
You
get it.
know, you'd look in a room and there were kids that looked like that.
Hey,
Some of
let
my,
me ask you something. Um, and think before you answer, please, Sandra, is when you looked into the room and you saw these kids that did not look healthy, what year are we looking at here?
so that would have been now what, closer to 10, 11 years old. So 73,
Yeah, okay. This is,
72.
we've heard this before, and is it safe to say that what you're looking at are the hybrid children? They're not human children.
Knowing what I know now, I would say yes. Back
And this,
then, I just thought they were sick children.
right, and this is what we've heard from other people who've been taken that, and this all happened in the 70s and in the 80s, even
Late
in the
60s.
90s. And then something switched and they got healthy. So now we've got hybrids walking amongst us that
Okay.
can pass for, for normal human beings. But I think the black-eyed children that people encounter, they look like kids, but they're not kids. David Weberly, who we interviewed in our Watches series, talked about and did a lot of research with these black-eyed kids, and people who encounter them are absolutely terrified. But they're older than what they look. They don't look. They're about the height and they appear maybe 13, 14, but they're not. They're much older than that. And this is, again, it goes back into the whatever this breeding program is, they didn't have it right, but now they do, I think, and they're creating these hybrids. So pick up the story from,
And
when
let
you're
me
on the
mention
ship.
one really important thing too. Like when I had been getting taken in childhood, I don't remember going to a ship. I felt like I was going underground actually.
Ah,
And you would feel like you would be taken, and like I can remember going through the wall, through the window. You would taste the wall on the way through. You would taste the window on the way through. And I remember you'd go outside and you'd hear it feel like a swoosh, but it felt more like going down than up. So just want to mention that this didn't change until later, like after, and I want to get to the part where I found Jesus. During all this time, we grew up Catholic. I'd ask the Catholic priest, can you help me with this? I'm getting harassed every night. I'd get patted on the head. Okay, take her home. I'd ask different priests. Finally, I found a reverend, went to a Baptist church, Reverend Martin, with a friend, saved my life, honest to God, because he prayed with me. He taught me to pray, gave me a Bible, taught me to say the 91st Psalms. I was baptized. Things really dropped off after that. I would rebuke when I heard that buzzing. I slapped the Bible on me, and I would start rebuking, saying prayers and asking Jesus, save me from that, and it dropped off a lot. Now I want to get to the important thing I almost forgot the other day. After this happened, when I was about 13, going into 9th grade, August of 1974, hadn't been taken for a while. We have a UFO come over our home.
whoa.
This is in Northeast Ohio. Huge disc, typical silver disc. I was across the street with my girlfriend. My brother was friends with her brother. They were outside. We hear them screaming. And it's that scream where we're babysitting and we know we better get out there. Run out. Here is this giant disc as big as the house. These are bi-level 30 by 40 home, sitting like had a top of a tree bent. It's like it was sitting in it.
Okay.
Maybe 100 feet above us. And when we hit the porch, they were standing there screaming. The thing flew up as fast as you could blink, came back down right over my house across the street.
Wow.
And I'm like, my brother at the time was like 9. He's like, is it going to land on our house? But it came down. Well, her father was sleeping. He worked a night shift and we went and woke him up. Well, he kind of woke up hearing us all scream, but we went down and went, you have to come out, Well, he comes out and we're watching this thing just hover there. Now, this is an August night, 7:30 or so, just getting dusk. In that neighborhood, if a police car even pulled in somewhere, the whole neighborhood's out. Well, he calls the police, who come? And the policeman got out. He was freaking out. He called dispatch. He goes, this is a flying saucer. He goes, what do I do? You know, and we had a telescope. So we get the telescope so we could look. You could see a light going around windows. It looked like if you ever followed Bob Lazar's story and he talks about the sports model.
Yeah.
It looked like that.
Sure.
Had an antenna coming out of the top, light, windows at the top with a light going around. You could see things standing there. Couldn't quite make it out, but you could see something standing in there.
How long did it sit there for?
45 minutes at least. Nobody else ever came out.
Whoa.
So 7 of us were watching it, and we're carrying on. The cop has his lights on. None of the neighbors or neighbor kids came out. That I still to this day can't get. But so it's sitting there and it's having a light was coming out of the antenna that was at the top. I've heard different things about what that meant, but it would be green, blue, red. Green, blue, red. Then it would go like green, green, red, red. I read something one time that was like some kind of mind control stuff. I don't know. But it sat there very low for a long time. And then it would go up. And it would like go over here, disappear and be over here. Disappear and be over here. You know, and it was just doing this. We started, the kids that were all there, we started getting used to it. We started like talking to it. We're going, make an S. And it would go like this. How did it know what an S is? And we go make a T and it would go up and go like this. So we were like, we're not afraid now because it's not hurting anything. It's kind of playing with us. Well, in the meantime, we had an Air Force base very near where this happened. We hear the police dispatch saying they were contacting the Air Force base. They had nothing on radar, but they were going to send jet fighters out. And so maybe 15 minutes later, we hear them coming. And about right before they went over, this thing just as fast as if you look like a shooting star, like you blink, it was
amazing.
Well, that night when I went home, first my brother went home, I watched him go across the street, and then I was talking, we were all, you know, well, I'm going to go home. My neighbor, I'm coming up the driveway, I see my neighbor's German Shepherd in our driveway, who it never was outside, and it was a mean dog. So I stopped because I was like, uh-oh. And I didn't want to go, I wanted to go home. I was scared, but I went back across the street because I didn't want to face the dog. When I came back across, they're all there. What are you coming back for? And I said, well, what do you mean? I said, angels over across the street. And I didn't want to run into her. And they said, you left 40 minutes ago.
Oh, boy.
So this is how they switch it up. After this, now I'm all into UFO, not associating UFO with this other stuff. This is the 70s. You don't know they're connected. So now I started getting abducted by these beautiful beings, these handsome looking men, golden skin, blonde, long hair, gorgeous, like model gorgeous. And they're like, and now when I'm feeling I'm going to a ship. I feel like I'm going up, you know, and they're telling me, well, we'll protect you from those other ones. But we want you to be the mother of a new race, they would tell me.
There you go.
So this is how they, now this is the new agenda. Now, and then I spent my life, being all into UFOs because I'm not realizing what they were. I went into the whole being an investigator for a particular organization, going to all the conferences, thinking they're our space brothers here for the good, going down that galactic new age road, stepped away from my Christianity. Even though I was always considered myself Christian, I was lukewarm, and thinking, oh, maybe there is something to this galactic stuff, right? I was in Vegas 2013 symposium for this UFO conference, talking to David Jacobs at his table to buy a book. Two hybrids came walking over, not over, but in the room. And I looked over and I was like, the typical, like when they say Men in Black, they look the same. It looked like two skinny Asian guys dressed exactly the same, looked like twins. I knew they were hybrids. And I'm talking to him. I go, hey, is he still alive?
I'm not sure. I believe he
I would
is.
love to contact him and ask him if he remembers that. But I said, hey, look at that, hybrids. And he went like, huh? And he looked and he goes, how do you know they're hybrids? I go, you can't tell. I just, I thought it was obvious. They didn't look right. They looked human, but not. There was something off.
Something wrong.
You knew they weren't. Yeah. And he got up and took off because when I looked at them, they took off. And it was a crowded place. So he wanted to go find them. He left. He's like, I'm going to go see. But I mean, I've seen hybrids at the grocery store. I see them everywhere. They are out there. People do not realize this. And now that I'm starting to, your work, I thank you so much for what you're doing. I've loved the Nephilim series. You've opened my eyes. Russ Dizdar was from my neck of the woods. I used to go watch him talk whenever I could.
Right.
And listening to his stuff with him. Yeah, I loved him. I was so disappointed to hear about his passing. He's sorely missed. There's a big hole there in the Christian community.
I agree. I totally agree.
And soldiers need to step up and fill that, because we're coming into times now that, I'm realizing through people like you, hearing the people he worked with, I have to thank people like a Jesse Saboter, these SRA survivors coming out and telling their story. I think when I started hearing those stories and I went, this stuff is real. Like, there is really a Satan. There really is an enemy that we are up against, and there's an army coming that he has created. Yep. We have power over it. But we've got to step up. I mean, when I started realizing this a couple of years ago, I came back to the Lord. I got rid of I had thousands of dollars of new age stuff and cleaned the home out, dedicated the life again, sanctified my home, prayed against any attachments. You have to do all that. It's not just saying you're a Christian. We have to get our full armor on and learn how to use it. Because the time's coming, you're not going to find it at most churches. I've moved to where I live now about 3 years ago. I've tried every church in town. Nobody wants to talk about this stuff. You bring up any of this, it's like everywhere you go, it's just a feel-good sermon. Nobody's talking.
And let me stop you right there, because we're kind of running out of time here. Okay. But that's why we did this show, and the Lord directed my steps to do it, and the response has been fantastic. But Sandra, I'll give you the last word. Just bring us to a close here, and I just want to thank you again for your boldness and your courage for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for letting me come on and share my story. I just want to tell everyone we have the upper hand because we have Jesus Christ on our side. But Amen. Do your part. Do your part. Put your full armor on every day. Know that this is the fallen angels, and people will be deceived by this. And the stuff, the disclosure coming. This is going to be used. This is the last card being played by the enemy.
Amen. I agree.
And even the elite will be deceived.
Yep. The elect.
So
right. The elect will be deceived.
Stay strong. God bless you for what you do. Protect you in your travels. And if I can ever help in any way, please contact me.
I certainly will. Once again, Sandra, thanks so much for coming on the record. We really appreciate it. And I know that the folks watching this appreciate it too, because the supernatural is, it's there. People have had experiences, and oftentimes they bottle this up literally for decades. They don't say anything to anybody, and that's why we created this platform. I wish I could say I have all the credit for it. I don't. It was from the Lord. He had us step away from pp&s report, which we did for about 6-7 years, and move into this. And I think it's looking at the lay of the land, where we are theologically, prophetically. That's what I mean by that. Specifically, prophetically, I think this show is has gotten legs, and I know we've got a lot of feedback from it. Please tell a friend about it. If you've not subscribed, subscribe below. By the way, I'll be at the Yuba City Conference, okay? Dark Shadows, Bright Hopes, and I'll be there with Derek Gilbert, Brian, Dave Bryan, and others. So it's going to be great. I'll be speaking at least twice, possibly 3 times. I've got oodles of material. Yuba City, California, right below Sacramento. Hope to see you there. And then in October, I believe, I haven't had confirmation of this, but I think something is going on in Lurville. So I'll be there on Friday and Saturday, and they'll be speaking there too. And that's it. If you want me to speak, now's the time to book us in. We try only to do 1 speaking engagement per month, because air travel has just gotten ridiculous, as some of you may know. So anyway, folks, if you've got something to say for Supernatural Confrontation, supernatural at lamarzulli.net. Supernatural at lamarzulli.net. John Adam Hicks has become our producer of this show. He sets up the interviews with me. Thank God someone is doing that. So it's in-house. He will get to you. We're working on the ones that literally emailed us over a month ago. That's how backlogged we are. But we will get to you. That is a promise. Please be patient. We had an email from a gentleman today complaining that I didn't write back to him. Well, we've got 11,200 unopened emails. And the problem is when we answer the email, we get 2 or 3 replies. So the number really goes down. We try to get to everybody, but it's just the wifey and myself. And then my son-in-law, John Adam, does the daily show, and our daughter, Corey, is in charge of shipping. So it's a little, mom and pop operation. It's basically the American dream. I thank you for coming on and watching our daily show, and we appreciate you and your patronage. We really do. Thanks so much for watching Supernatural Confrontations. Remember, there is a supernatural world, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me.